And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside at speed off. Bring in at speed off. It's orange!
Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
Flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome to the Saturday edition of Countdown to Launch. I'm Gene Rowley, your host for today's show, and I am joined by some folks that, like you, I've been watching for a very long time, and I'm very, very proud to be on stream with them. I want to bring them in so they can say hello to everybody. First, the one and only Sawyer Rosenstein.
Hey Gene, how's it going? It is a beautiful Saturday, and any chance to talk about Starship? And I guess we'll get an extra day to talk about Starship too, but we'll get into that.
That's exactly right. And joining us for today's show and as we go forward, the one and only Ryan Caton. Ryan, how are you today?
Hello everyone, it's wonderful, wonderful day. We get extra time to prepare for the flight. I'm sure Kevin's very happy with that. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff to discuss because they were busy last night at the pad doing some fiddling with the booster, should we say. And yeah, some exciting stuff coming up tomorrow, maybe. Let's find out.
We have a lot of stuff in store for you today. We are going to talk about the weather again. And of course, if you've been watching Countdown to Launch and Starbase Live, as you should have, you would see the full stack of 3113, Ship 31, Booster 13 in all its glory. And I, of course, am not in my normal location. I am here at Starbase. I got to go out there and see that beautiful ship today, take some pictures and kind of nerd out just the way we do it. We get out there and still, I ran into some folks on the side of the road who were just in awe. It was their first time at Starbase to see how amazing this rocket is, and we're going to see it launch on Tuesday. Now, we are, again, going to talk about the weather here in just a little bit, and it is official on the SpaceX website. They did push the launch to Tuesday, which means what are they going to do or potentially do tomorrow? Let's see, Ryan, I'm going to ask you this question. What do you think their plans could possibly be for work before the launch on Sunday?
So a road closure has been scheduled for tomorrow. We have a full stack on the pad, as you can see. There hasn't been a Marine Safety Information Bulletin put out, an MSIB. So that rules out any like full wet dress rehearsal testing, because you know when you fully fuel this thing, you're sure that there's no chance anybody's in the way. Road closure and be doing some pass road testing. Maybe we'll kind of have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and find out what they actually do. But based on past precedent, what SpaceX has done, based on the information we have seen, that's kind of what we're sort of guessing might be coming up. You know, SpaceX hasn't tweeted and said, we're going to be doing partial load testing tomorrow. They don't send out a press release every morning saying we're going to be doing this. But based on what we've seen before and what we can see right now, that's essentially what we're assuming, estimating, guessing what we're going to be seeing tomorrow.
Okay. Guys, don't forget to put your questions in the chat. We will get to them when we can. And thank you guys so much for the support right off the bat. The one and only Wilbo Baggins, thank you for your support and gifting Red Team memberships to folks. And again, if you receive one of those memberships, be sure to say thank you in the chat to whoever gifted them to you. I'm trying to make sense of this question. Robert wanted to know, does Tuesday's flight change the timing from a half-hour launch opening? So they have a half-hour window. Does it actually give SpaceX more time or less? Sawyer, what do you think?
My understanding is the window is still exactly the same of 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Time. So, I mean, I guess it gives them another day, I guess, to prepare, to do any final checks, or whatever testing they may end up doing tomorrow, to then say, all right, we learned something, we need to make a small tweak, whatever the case may be, for Monday. But in terms of the actual fuel load plans, the plans for getting the flight off, they still have that same half hour from 4 to 4:30 Central.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I was excited for Monday. I'll be excited for Tuesday. I, like everybody else, love rocket launches, and that is what we want to see, that rocket right there fly. The other thing we want to see is, we promised you the patch when we had a full stack. They have now revealed the patch. If you haven't gone to shop.nasaspaceflight.com and check the patch out, please go do so. If they could put it up on the screen, that'd be amazing. It is one of the most beautiful patches, I think, we've had, and the chat has been going crazy about what the patch looks like. So go out to shop.nasaspaceflight.com and order your patch. Thank you so much for gifting, Nats, thank you for gifting those 20 Red Team memberships. We appreciate your support in the chat as well. Do you think, let's see, will there be something different about this flight? The answer is, we obviously know this. Ryan, tell us what's different about this flight, and then the second part of this question I'm going to throw to Sawyer.
Well, the timeline SpaceX put out when they announced this mission with the Flight 5 recap video, because they're doing this like a month after, because the timeline is super condensed between the flights. Anyways, the timeline reveals that they're going to be conducting an in-space burn with one Raptor on the ship. Now, this is a really key milestone SpaceX needs to be able to get through, because if they can't prove they can relight the Raptor in zero gravity, then it's pretty unsafe for them to actually launch a Starship into orbit. Remember, all of the flight tests so far, they have been suborbital flight tests. They've been very long, very high suborbital flight tests, but suborbital nonetheless, so they haven't made a full revolution of the Earth. Before they go orbital, they want to make sure they can restart that Raptor in space to make sure they can actually de-orbit the ship. Because if you didn't know, Starship's quite big, and even when we have launches of smaller rockets, say the Chinese Chang'e 5, and they leave their core stage kind of floating aimlessly around the Earth, and they don't know exactly where it's going to re-enter. We have airspace closures. For example, the last time they did that, Spain had to close its airspace to make sure that it didn't hit anything. It eventually re-entered over the Philippines, for example. And that's a big difference there with the orbit there. So SpaceX wants to make sure they can actually deorbit Starship before they put Starship into orbit, because this isn't like a Falcon 9 second stage that's relatively small, right? This is huge. This is 9 meters in diameter, nearly 50 meters tall. This is a big rocket.
And we don't want that rocket floating around in space. And the second part of that question, Sawyer, goes to you. When do you think we're going to see a ship catch?
I still don't think we're going to see a ship catch until we get into that second version of the ship here. So, I mean, on this flight, we've got a bunch of the TPS removed. There's a lot, it seems, that they're looking at. We've seen some of those engineering cameras looking especially in particular at the flaps on it. So it seems like there's still a lot more that they want to learn about the dynamics of the ship, of, hey, do we need all of these TPS tiles? Could there potentially be a spot where we don't need the tiles that could then actually be used to grab onto the ship when they do go for the catch? My guess is that we would see an orbital flight first before we see them attempt a catch with it. So I think we're still probably a few flights out. My guess would be towards the end of 2025, although I know some people think I tend to be a little pessimistic on timelines.
I've been looking at some of the potential hardware applications of how they would expand landing pins from the ship, and it'll be interesting to see this ship when it comes in for re-entry and what the data shows on the stripped sides. To me, it looks like a penguin. I don't know if anybody else sees a penguin now, but now you can't unsee the penguin. You're welcome. But they stripped those TPS tiles off the sides. It'll be interesting to see what the data comes back. But I'm looking forward to seeing some retractable or extendable, or both, landing pins from underneath the forward flaps. Got Gautham?
Darn it, by the way, I can't unsee it now. Thanks, Gene.
It's a penguin. See? Penguin. You're welcome. Gautham, thank you so much for your support. That super chat. We can't do this without you, and we really, really appreciate it. Let's talk about, would the first reflight of a booster be expended, do you think? Ryan, the first reflight of a booster, would they expend it or try to catch it a second time?
See, that's a really interesting question because historically, the first time they did a reflight for Falcon 9 booster, I believe they expended that booster, right? So its second flight, they expended it. They didn't try and recover it again. And, you know, back in the early Block 4 days, they only did 3 flights-ish of Falcon 9 boosters. They didn't really start pushing beyond that number until they got to the current Block 5 series a few years ago. So that kind of leads me to believe maybe they'll do a catch on the first flight and an expended flight on the second time around. But then again, Starship is unlike anything that's ever been developed before, so it's kind of hard to use past precedent from previous rockets, even previous SpaceX rockets, to guess what they'll do with Starship. Maybe they'll do something similar like they did with Falcon 9, fly it, catch it on the first flight, expend it on the second. But also, if they can catch it, why would they want to get rid of it? Surely they want that data. Surely they want to be pushing these prototypes to their limits, like we know they're going to be doing with the ship on its re-entry this time around. So you can see Booster 12 there. I mean, it looks all right. You could fly that again. I don't think they'll fly Booster 12 again, but, you know, coming up, I think reusability is really going to be coming up soon with the boosters here. If they don't refly a booster next year, I'll be very surprised personally.
I was waiting for you to say, look, there's Booster 12. It looks fine. Put Ship 26 on it and launch it.
No.
I was hoping no one would bring that up in that video.
I drove past it today. I just kind of waved and said, hey, Frankenstein, how you doing? We'll see what happens. We'll see what the chat says. Let's see. Thoughts on the ship FTS may already be installed in the high bay. Sawyer, what are your thoughts on that? You think they put the FTS on and then rolled it down Highway 4?
I don't think they would put the FTS on and then roll it down and parade it, especially with all the piles on Highway 4, it seems like. But we did see, again, that they put the flight termination system on the booster. It took them a good, 6-7 hours, it seemed like, the other night to do that. So I don't know if it would be on the ship just yet. I don't think they would fully install it on the high bay, just given the risk of those explosives. I don't think we know for sure, though. I'm just speculating on that. I don't think we have any official confirmation that I'm aware of, though, that it's not or is installed for ship.
Well,
it's kind of difficult to tell.
It is. We'll know definitively when they destack it and put a man lift up there and we see the people working on it. I can't get over this.
Then we know it's already on.
And if they don't, we'll know it's already on. And then from then on, we play the guessing game of is it or is it not when a ship rolls from the Mega Bay or High Bay 4 flight. Let's see. Willie, thank you so much for your support. We love doing the coverage for you, and we love that you're there. And again, I was out at the launch site today and was standing next to that beautiful rocket, and some folks walked by and just said, you know, we love watching the coverage on NSF. They appreciate everything we do, and we do this because we love it just like you guys. So we can't thank you enough. When we see you wearing the shirts and the sweaters and the patches and just all the great stuff that you guys put in chat. Let's get to some more questions. We do have Adam coming up here in about 10 minutes, going to tell us weather for Tuesday. He'll probably go over Monday as well. We'll have some good graphics for you as well. And then something special, hopefully later in this countdown to launch. We'll see if we can get there. The Starship relight, sea level or vacuum engine? Great question. Ryan, what do you think? Sea level or vacuum?
I'm pretty sure it will be one of the 3 sea level engines because those vacuum engines are quite big and they only need to prove that they can relight the Raptor, right? They're not doing a huge, massive interplanetary transfer burn, right? They're just doing a little, tiny little burn just to make sure that that Raptor can indeed actually restart in space. Because even for the deorbit burn, they're not going to orbit this time, but for future, when they do go to orbit, to deorbit the ship, they only have to do a teeny tiny little burn in order to actually get the ship's apogee, or its highest part of its orbit, sorry, its perigee, its lowest part of the orbit, into the atmosphere, right? And once the perigee is in the atmosphere, atmospheric drag, the heat shield, they then do their job, and it can then lower down and eventually fall to the ground and hopefully either land on something or get caught by something, or, you know, whatever, or splash down, whatever SpaceX decides to do at that point.
So you're saying they're gonna just very briefly light a sea level Raptor to prove they can relight it in space, which we all believe they can. Doesn't that mean that that one Raptor will be lit 3 times, one for uphill, one for the test, and one for the landing burn?
I think that would be the case. Yeah.
Sawyer, do you agree with that? Or do you think they're going to light one of those, the RVACs?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure. Just reading off of SpaceX's wording on it, it is very vague. Just reigniting a ship Raptor engine while in space, quote unquote. So, I mean, I think it could go either way. It's going to be interesting, though, that of all those engines, you're going to have one engine that's fired slightly more than the rest. Kind of like how Rocket Lab reused one engine of theirs. So it's like 499 engines have flown on 50 missions if there's 10 of them. Those weird numbers. But I think it would make sense just to go for the sea level.
Mm-hmm. The amazing thing is, though, they've already calculated into the flight plan the orientation of the vehicle, and they know approximately, well, they probably know very closely, how much delta V they need to get into the perfect landing profile to land near the buoy in the Indian Ocean. So they've already taken into whatever test they're going to do into account for their flight profile. So if it's uphill, they're pushing themselves out a little bit. If they've already oriented the vehicle for re-entry, they change that flight profile just a little bit, because then they've got to land by that buoy in the Indian Ocean to show total control of the vehicle as it comes through re-entry, even after they've done their relight test. It's going to be interesting to see. I want to see the data of it afterwards. That's my nerd flag flying there, is show me your flight profile, because they already have it planned. We're going to do this much delta V for this amount, and we're going to fire that engine for this amount of time. It's just rocket science is amazing, and what a time to live, right, guys? What a time to be alive. All right.
Yeah. Also,
go ahead.
Also, very quickly, I just want to mention the sea levels are the only Raptors that can gimbal, right? The vacuum Raptors are stuck in their positions. They're fixed in place. So theoretically, the sea levels are the only ones that can gimbal to actually, you know, fire their thrust through the center of mass of the ship. So that's kind of why the sea level makes the most sense, because if they fire one of the Raptors, its center of thrust won't be going through the center of mass, so then the ship will start rotating, and, you know, then they'll have to fight that with the reaction control. So, you know, so maybe just sticking with the sea level Raptor, just eliminate all of those issues from the get-go.
We'll see what happens.
Just rocket science. It's not brain surgery or anything.
Yeah, it's just rocket science. It's just math. I want that picture on screen so bad. This is an interesting one. Look, we're going to go to Adam here in just a little bit. Before we do that, to talk about the weather, let's talk about lunar. This is an interesting question. I'm going to throw it up. The Noob 340 says, and this is, Ryan, I'm going to throw this to you first, and we'll have this discussion. Can we talk about a lunar space elevator for a bit? Is it possible to build one with current technology, and how would it affect HLS architecture? I'm a big space elevator fan. Do you guys know what we're talking about? Space elevators?
Yeah.
Right? With the tether.
It's a lift that goes to space.
The thing is, he said the question was lunar space elevator. The problem with the space elevator, and again, just talking off topic here for just a second, because of the inclination of the moon to the Earth's plane, if you will, from its equator, I don't think you can't tether it. You can only do the tether from the equator, right? Did I just throw everybody a curveball there? Chat, if I threw you a curveball, let me know what you think. We'll talk about space elevators on a different stream. We're here to talk about Starship. There it is. Am I wrong? It's Penguin. I'm naming this one. What do you guys think?
I mean, I can certainly see the similarities.
I saw it.
Now I need to hear Adrian try and say it, because he says squirrel funny. I wonder how he says penguin.
I saw it on Starbase Live the other day, and I said, "That's a penguin." If you squint a little bit, so it also kind of looks like a shark, but I like penguins more. We'll see about that. So,
Fair warning though: do not try and put a penguin through re-entry heating.
no, it would come in upside down, wouldn't it? And that's not. They wouldn't see where it's going. That's a joke, guys. That's a reentry joke. Come on. Let's see. More Red Team memberships. Thank you so much, Jarwa. Thank you for those memberships. And Jirwa is also apparently a Team S26 fan, so we'll throw that one in there for you too. And again, coming up later in this countdown to launch, we're going to talk to Adam Suker about the weather and the pushback, why we pushed to Tuesday. We also have special guests coming up a little bit later after that. So I want to keep saying, let's see, love your metal prints. Thank you so much. And thank you, John. Happy birthday, John. John Garner, happy birthday to you. From everybody here at NSF, happy birthday. We're going to light a big candle on Tuesday to celebrate everybody's birthday on Tuesday, right?
39 of them, if you think technically.
30, that's
in sequence.
There you go,
yes.
39. Okay, here's a good one. Do you think they would do the first ship catch on Pad A rather than risk their brand new shiny Tower B? Tower 2. Sawyer, what do you think?
I mean, I think it all depends on the architecture at that point of, are both of them going to be for launching? Are they going to retrofit Pad A so that it can launch these upgraded boosters and ships as they make those changes? I mean, Pad B is already being prepared, it seems like, for those future iterations of Starship, both the booster side and the ship side. I think that they could potentially do Pad A for the catch for that, although I think the long-term goal is to be able to say, hey, let's do quick turnaround, let's catch the booster, let's catch the ship, restack and go. To start though, I think I could see them maybe trying the catch on Pad A for the ship, but still use B for the booster.
Ryan, what do you think?
It makes sense that they would be currently building their new mount, the orbital launch mount, for a V2 booster design, right? Because if they're going to be changing the booster design significantly, then it's not going to be compatible with, it's like trying to put an Apple Lightning charger into a USB-C port. It's just not going to work, right? The ship, chopsticks are chopsticks, like we already know that the new chopstick is going to be shorter based on what we've seen at the Sanchez lot at the production site, based on what we've seen at the Roberts Road site at the Kennedy Space Center, which is SpaceX's Cape Side base, should we say. I think it doesn't really matter, They risked Pad A for a booster last time around. I'm sure they're willing to risk Pad A for a ship. I'm sure they'd be willing to risk Pad B as well. I mean, technically, every time they try and land a Falcon 9 on a drone ship, they're risking a drone ship, They've landed them 350 odd times successfully, but they're still risking the drone ship. Pad B is further away from the tank farm, which is what they'd really be concerned about, so maybe it's actually less dangerous to try and catch Pad B. I don't know, but that's my thinking.
I think by the time they try to catch the ship, they'll already have experience catching so many boosters. I don't know that it's going to be an issue because they can get it right in between the chopsticks. The only question mark is going to be whether the pins hold up because they're deployable and not fixed. That's a great question, though. Keep those questions coming. We appreciate all of the questions and the support. Let's switch to Falcon 9 real quick. With the development of Starship, and thank you, by the way, for this question. With the development of the pace of development of Starship, the question becomes Falcon 9's usability going forward. We just got an update on this, didn't we? We just heard the rumor mill, Sawyer, about Falcon 9 going forward. Ryan, you guys heard that, right? Did I hear something on the wind about Falcon 9 and its usability going forward?
I believe Gwen Shotwell said something in an interview somewhere. I'm not 100% sure what she said, but I think she said something along, something like that, 4 to 6 years maybe. You know, Gwen Shotwell timelines seem to be more realistic than Elon timelines, but she also said Starship would be going orbital in 2021, which it very obviously didn't. So, you know, you've got to take a pinch of salt there sometimes with Gwen, but she's at least usually more reliable than Elon timelines are. Personally, I think Falcon 9 will be flying all the way till 2040. You know, 2030 seems like a really early cutoff for me personally. The Falcon architecture is really a really trusted architecture now with the Department of Defense, with NASA, with, you know, national space agencies all around the world. You know, I really don't see Falcon 9 retiring in 6 years' time. But maybe I'll be proven wrong by SpaceX.
So
if I could jump in also.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I mean, we knew that Falcon 9 is going to eventually be retired. They've said that the goal is to end up moving it all to Starship. But as Ryan pointed out, right now it is certified for DoD missions. Right now it is certified for crew missions to the space station, which we know will happen until at least 2030 as of now, with the planned deorbit of the space station, planning to launch the actual deorbiting mechanism. I believe that's also scheduled to be on Falcon 9. Plus, if you're a satellite provider and you have a small-ish satellite, are you really going to need a giant Starship to launch it? Until that price of Starship goes down to, say, a Falcon 9 level, and you have a smaller-ish satellite that can fit within that Falcon 9 architecture or even the Falcon Heavy architecture, I think you go for that smaller, in this case, more proven rocket, which ends up being a little bit cheaper. So as long as that market continues where Falcon 9 is as cheap as it is for those average-sized satellites, I think we're going to still see Falcon 9 fly and make money.
I absolutely agree. It all comes down to the cost to orbit. And there are people that you and I could build a CubeSat and put it on a transporter mission. You know, these universities are making these satellites and putting them on these missions. And there will always, in my opinion, be a need for small lift, medium lift, and then heavy lift vehicles. And I don't think, I mean, if it's bringing in revenue to the company, I think they're going to keep it going as long as possible. Okay, let's switch gears here, and we're going to reach out and talk to Adam, our eye on the sky from NSF, who is live in the field. Welcome, Adam. Adam Sucher, everybody. Now, you've been very busy lately talking about the weather, and you nailed the Monday weather. Let's give everybody an update on why we pushed to Tuesday and what we're looking forward to.
Exactly. I'm over here in South Padre, where the majority of everybody is probably going to watch the next flight. Now, yes, SpaceX didn't say, hey, this is the reason why we went from Monday to Tuesday, but meteorological-wise, the conditions were just too borderline. We had a chance for some thunderstorms nearby the area. We had a front moving in real close. We had directional wind shear, so Monday just did not look like a really good day. And, out of the 3-day span that they have, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and if you look at all 3 of those days in the afternoon, even if you looked at Wednesday had really strong winds because a really strong front's going to be blowing through. So even the surface winds are going to be over 30 miles an hour. If I can go ahead and also throw up the weather graphic as I talk about it, the one that actually shows the forecast here. I have it highlighted. So Tuesday was the better looking day out of all 3 days. And if you notice, even on just a generic forecast, it's just giving you an overall day forecast. It's saying it's going to be sunny, high like 81 degrees, north wind around 10 miles an hour. So on Tuesday, that's our main day we're looking at basically 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're looking at high temperature, probably roughly 79, 80 degrees. We're looking at north wind about 10 miles an hour. And the best thing is, with the north wind, we're actually going to be pushing in drier air, which for everybody that probably doesn't really matter, but for photographers it does, because we like the less humidity down here at the beach because it makes for crystal clear pictures when you're having to shoot from a few miles away. And so we like that. Now, the one thing we've been talking about the most, though, is there is a little bit of directional wind shear for Tuesday, but it's nowhere near the line of Monday and Wednesday. It looks like definitely the better day. That's why they picked Tuesday. If you would like to go to the next graphic, I want to show you the only other thing I was talking about is with that front sliding through with those north winds, this is the cloud chart. This is one computer model that generated. If y'all remember yesterday, I was showing you, it's still trying to show some lingering clouds behind the front. Look at this. White means clear. South Padre is where I got the red line. I looked at a few models as I just got down here, and it's showing now that drier air is going to push in, making for humidity levels around 49-50%, which down at the beach is very low. So right now, we're looking at crystal clear conditions. We still have a few days, but the conditions are improving for Tuesday. So I'm actually very ecstatic for this flight. I'm hoping to have conditions similar to what we have right now behind us. Crystal clear skies, it's a beautiful day here. So great news. I love seeing this part. Tuesday looks very favorable. I think if everything goes smoothly, the weather right now is looking good.
And we love the fact that you love saying the fact that the weather is looking good. That's what we wanted. That's what we all wanted to hear. Adam, thank you so much for being out there and checking and making these charts and checking the weather for us. You just made a whole lot of people happy, and we will see on Tuesday when that beautiful rocket right there takes off. Adam Suker, the weather guy. I love it. That's the official title, right, guys? Let's get back to some questions. First, let's thank the Guardian. Thank you so much for becoming a Red Team member. You hear me say this all the time. We can't do this without you. We appreciate everything you do, every like, everything from shop.nasaspaceflight.com, literally everything. It makes it possible for all of the people you can't see right now to do what they do behind the scenes. These pictures are coming from you, from people out there right now. As I said earlier in the stream, Jack Byer has the greatest job. I'm jealous. He gets to sit and take pictures of rockets all day.
It's true.
You go away. Let's get back to some questions. One of the benefits of being here. Let's get to some of these questions. Well, since Jack just walked in, let's take this one right here. Elon said, and this is for Ryan, Elon said he wants as much mass as possible in the GSC. Will this mean we don't see fold-out pins? Also, Jack Bacon killed while tap dancing.
I don't know why. Are you adding that to the end to try and manifest it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure Jack will be too happy with that. But either way, to address the first part of the question, that is what Elon said. That is the whole reason the chopsticks exist, to remove the if you remove the landing legs from the booster, you scrap that mass and you stick it on the ground. That means you can lift more stuff into space. That's like the first rule of rocketry: lower rocket mass equals more payload mass. The difficulty with having permanently mounted non-retractable pins, landing pins on the ship, is that you really start to get into a very difficult position when it comes to re-entry. Because remember, this ship, in order to be caught, is going to have to re-enter from orbit through orbital velocities, through all of that thermal loading through re-entry, and they need those pins to be thermally protected. The easiest way to protect them is to not have them in the plasma stream. So, you kind of want them folded within the vehicle, but you need them stuck out in order to actually catch with them on the chopsticks. So having them permanently mounted, you're like, well, maybe they'll put some tiles on them. But, the entire reason that they've stripped away these tiles here on Ship 31 is because they don't want the tiles in that area, right? These tiles are very delicate. If you smash the tiles with the chopsticks, that you're going to have to replace all the tiles on your ship, right? So that's not what SpaceX wants to do. They don't want tiles there. They want the pins there, but they also want as much mass on the ground as possible. So there's this huge equation they're currently trying to solve, which is why folding pins seems to make the most sense, because you don't want your pins to melt, but you also want as much stuff on the ground as possible. So it's all just trade-offs at the end of the day.
Sawyer, do you think they're going to fold out? Ooh, you almost got a timer there, Ryan. Do you think they're going to fold out, or do you think they're going to be retractable like landing gear?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like there has to be a way to protect them, like Ryan was talking about, from that re-entry heating. I feel like it's different from the booster side, where, the grid fins, unlike Falcon 9, those are staying out the entire time. When you add in that extra mechanism of having to fold and unfold, it's just another failure point. It's another place where things can go wrong. So at that point, if aerodynamically you can keep them out and they can withstand the heat, great. The difference becomes with the ship, like you're pointing out, when you're coming in from orbital velocity here and you're reaching those peak temperatures, 4,000 degrees Celsius. I feel like you need some way to kind of fold them in to protect them. So rather than have it just be like something that's kind of sticking out and then extends, it almost kind of needs that protective covering unless you make it out of something ridiculously unmeltable.
Ryan Weber and I were having a conversation. He brought up a great point about possibly an aero cover. So they can be fixed, but they have an aero cover to protect them from the reentry heating. And speaking of reentry heating, I want to get to this question. This is a really interesting one. Sawyer, I'm going to ask you first. You know, we always talk about like the space station has large radiators and why ships are silver and things like that. This question is really interesting. Why are the tiles black? Wouldn't they be deflecting more heat if they were white? And I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you answer this one.
Why don't you take it then?
Okay, I will. There's a difference between radiating and absorbing. These heat shields don't actually, they deflect the heat. Because what happens when the ship is coming in through and hitting the atmosphere, it's actually forming the plasma on the, where are my visual aids? Jack, where are my visual aids? He's my runner now. Look, I've got him running all over the place. So when the ship is coming into re-entry, thank you, Mr. Visual Aid. I don't need the booster. Thank you. It's coming in. The plasma is forming here. Okay. So technically, it doesn't actually touch the ship. Anywhere it touches, on the last flight, you'll notice here on the front flaps, on the back flaps, you actually started to see it glow. That's actually a pinch point in the re-entry heating where it's actually starting to touch. That's why the burn through happens. Here, on the belly of the ship, it's actually not touching it, and it just pushes its way through the atmosphere. So it doesn't actually have to be white, because the concept is a white shirt radiates heat in sunlight, and a black shirt absorbs more heat in sunlight. That has nothing to do with the color of the tiles. They could make the tiles red. They could put a big SpaceX logo on the front, and it literally would mean nothing to how the heat shield on a vehicle works. Speaking of heat shields and vehicles, look at these. Look, I want to show off Ryan's shirt. The Merlin engine t-shirt he's got there, because I know where he got it, and I ordered one of those earlier this week from shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I got my full stack sweater the other day, and Sawyer, is that one that's available?
The human spaceflight shirt? Absolutely.
Is that on
shop.nasa?
shop.nasa? I haven't seen that one yet. You can go to shop.nasaspaceflight.com, check out the beautiful new patch you can see on screen there, grab all your holiday sweaters. They're adding things all the time. Look at those beautiful shirts. I just ordered my patch. I can't wait for it to come in. If you haven't ordered your patch, get it today. You're going to want this one. It's got Starhopper on there. It's a great view. Look at all the other patches. Oh, and the metal prints. We were talking about, this is my first time here. And there are metal prints, and I haven't ever seen them in real life. They're beautiful. You should check them out. Shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I'm going to sit here and play with this. Can you take these? Because I'm just going to play with them all day. You can't put a rocket toy that close to me and expect me not to play with a rocket toy. Let's see.
What you can play with is all the different color options, the different shirts, the mugs, all of it with that patch on it, stickers, and the big thing, of course, with the patch, though, just like the first 5, once it is gone, it is gone. We don't have a reserve of like, oh, yeah, it's sold out. Cool, let's add another 500. Nope. When it's gone, it's gone. Ask anyone from the other previous flights who's tried to get one. So make sure if you do want it, you get it while supplies last. There will not be another drop.
At least we have them in sticker form now, though. We always see comments like, can you bring back the Flight 2 patch? They're in sticker form now, so you can't get the actual patch, but at least you can get stickers, right?
Yeah, my Pelican case that I use to carry all my camera gear at the Cape is about to get very sticker covered.
I can't wait to get all the stickers. I honestly can't. I'm gonna get every single one of them. They're fantastic. Thank you so much, Jeremiah, for the support and a great question. Oh, here you go. This is going to be a long one. Coolidge patch designs yet? Yes, we agree with you. Thank you for the labor of love at NSF. Your passion is evident, and we appreciate that because we appreciate you. We love these rockets just like you guys do. Any chance to order a signed print? Because the NSF photographers are the ones who take these amazing pictures. Is that possible, Sawyer? You were just talking about the shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Can they get them signed by a Max or a D?
I don't believe you can get them signed. I mean, I'm sure you could reach out to a photographer and ask for an autograph from them, but in terms of the prints, we want it to be the nice, pristine, clean quality of the shot itself. So those are just going to be the pictures and the appreciation from whoever took them, because, a reminder, when you do get a print, a portion of that sale does go to the person who actually took that picture. So the support is appreciated in that way.
All right, let's get back to Starship. Let's talk about Flight 7. When do you guys think, after Tuesday, early next year, what are we going to see? Ryan, when is your prediction?
So yeah, assuming it does go Tuesday, because if there's delays, we suddenly get into Thanksgiving, and they have big blockages of when they can't close the road during Thanksgiving. So assuming Tuesday, personally, I'm feeling February. That's what I'm doing. I'm feeling February. It's really, the next flight is going to be the first flight of the next generation of Starship. Ship 33 has humongous upgrades. It's got loads of stuff they want to test in so much, thorough detail. They'll want to get into all the little nooks and crannies of everything they can test with that vehicle. So they'll need more prep time for that flight than they have for any of the flights this year, in my opinion. Maybe apart from Flight 3, because that was November to March, right? November 23, March 24. Yeah, so February is what I'm feeling right now.
Sawyer, what about you?
Fight mode.
Ding, ding, ding. Come on, Kevin.
Again, there it is. On the slightly more pessimistic side again here. I mean, you've got brand new, type of vehicle to work on. Got to get the adjustments, making sure everything works on the stand, doing all the extra testing with it, and the fact that you now also have the regulatory paperwork that needs to be done, given how different of a vehicle this is, potentially different flight profiles that they could be flying if they do end up going for orbital. So I'm going to guess March, but I would not be surprised if they try for a certain date in April, because haha, and also anniversaries.
Yeah. If we know Elon the way we do, it could be late April, let's say that. Ship 33 does have its engines, so we're looking at a test campaign December, early January. What do you guys think? Sawyer?
That's certainly possible.
Or Ryan? You said certainly possible for which? Late December, early January? I mean, they got to roll it to Massey's and light it up.
That entire window, it depends how long they want to keep it at Massey's for, right? So I imagine they might want to do spin prime testing, before static fire testing. We'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Sawyer, what do you think?
I'm sure we'll see testing already before the end of the year. I could see December already starting, but like you mentioned, something simple, starting with spin primes, things like that. I don't think we see the big major testing for that until January. And also, I gotta say, my accent has turned from New York to British. I'm impressed.
It's catching. So I have a question, and by the way, you guys obviously keep the questions coming in the chat, but I want to know about Raptor 3s. Now, we're down the road a ways from seeing Raptor 3s installed on ships, but do you think they will install them on the booster first before they put them on the ships, or do you think it's going to be the other way around, or at the same time? Ryan is already waiting to answer this question. I can tell by the look on his face.
I'm pondering, Gene.
Yeah.
See, that's a really tough one to try and give any answer on, because they're going to V2 ship, Block 2, they're going to Starship 2, whatever you want to call it, before they go to Booster V2. Will they wait for Booster V2 for Raptor 3? Because we've seen Raptor 2s roll to Ship 33, the first Starship 2. So will they wait for Raptor 3 to go on to Booster version 2? Maybe that's their plan. I mean, or will they then want to do Raptor 3 on Starship V2 and roll Raptor 3 in as like a Starship V2.5? I don't know. I could see them maybe putting them on the ship first, since they're doing V2 ship before V2 booster. I struggle to see how they would manufacture a booster with Raptor V3 before putting manufacture a ship with Raptor V3. I'd imagine they'd be at a relatively similar time. But also, V2 ship is going to be compatible, we know, with the top of a V1 booster, because they're still building V1 boosters whilst they're building V2 ships. So maybe V2 booster and V2 ship, maybe it will all be intermingled. So, we're going to have reusability in this Block 2 era. So maybe we'll have V2 Raptor ships and V3 Raptor ships and V2 Raptor boosters and V3 Raptor boosters all kind of intermingling, and it's just going to be like an older version of a booster. Maybe what I'm trying to say, I'm doing an Alex answer here. What I'm trying to say is maybe they'll all be interchangeable. They'll just start manufacturing at a relatively similar time. So that's my kind of guess.
I kind of blacked out in the middle there. Sawyer, can you answer that question? No, I'm kidding. Sawyer, what do you think? Are they going to put 33 Raptor 3s on a booster before they put 3 on a ship?
I was going to say, we're talking the Raptor vacuum, Raptor sea level. I mean,
it's 6 versus 33.
Right. Yeah. Well, technically 3 versus.
Yeah, and they're going to 9 eventually, right? 9 on the ship.
Yeah, eventually they'll go to 9. Yeah. For now it's the 3, then it would be the 6. I feel like Ryan has the right idea that with the ship being the first one to make it to the next version, so to speak, that we would see the Raptor 3s on that first. I mean, already we've seen them testing these Raptor 3s to Rudd. Most likely intentionally down at McGregor, which we have McGregor Live 24/7. You can watch the testing. But I think that it would be shipped first for those Raptor 3s.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And if from a business perspective, I look at it and say they want to get this vehicle as operationalized. Did I make a word up there? As fast as possible, because they want to go from where they are in testing, called that step 1, to step 2, which is customer payloads, as fast as possible. And we all know the customer is themselves. As soon as they can get up into orbit, prove they can deorbit, land, reload, and go, they're going to start throwing Starlink version 2s up there as fast as possible. But then also paying customers, because that's really where things are going to ramp up. Guys, thank you so much for your support. There's so many people in chat super chatting and asking great questions. Tommy, thank you so much for your super chat. Alexander, thank you. Yes, the patch is amazing. We agree. Thomas, there is a patch. Shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Check the patch out. It's beautiful. You're going to love it. Get them while they last, right, Sawyer? When they're out, they're out. Because I asked the other day about previous patches, and they said no. So. And
also of note, if you love NSF, you must love Chris Bergen, who is the man in charge of this. If you don't want him to have a stroke and a heart attack all in one, please triple check your address. Make sure that the address that you put in is correct. Because if you put the wrong one in and we run out, then we have a problem. So please, if you love Chris Bergen, double check, triple check your address. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see. We talked about Falcon 9 already. When do you think the first ship reflight? I know crystal balls. Everybody wants to know crystal. We got our magic 8 ball. It is going to be exactly, and that never works. So when do you guys think the first ship reflight? We just landed a booster, 36 days ago? 37 days ago? Something like that.
Well, who's counting?
And now they're talking, everybody's like, when are we going to refly the booster? When are we going to do this? We haven't even caught a ship. And everybody's asking ship. It's going to be a while, right, guys? Ryan, what do you think? How long before we refly a ship?
I'm feeling 2026, but I'm also feeling, oh my goodness, the Artemis program is coming up on us very quickly, and we need to be able to, launch and land astronauts on the moon. So, then I want to have some hope and be like, oh, maybe it'll be 2025 and SpaceX will be on time for Artemis and everything will be fine and we're going to be dancing in the flowers and everything's going to be wonderful, right? But I'm still feeling the beginning of 2026. At a push, I can make myself, maybe delusionally believe the end of 2025 is possible, but I'm feeling 26.
So I'm going to switch it up for you, Sawyer. The Mars transfer window is October 2026. Not to reuse a ship, but do you think we'll see one going to the red planet in October 2026?
No, I'm gonna flat out say.
Okay, we're done talking to Sawyer today. Thanks for coming. No, really, you don't think so? You don't think they'll be ready to at least send one and try to land on Mars by then?
But here's the thing. I feel like the focus right now, you just made the perfect point of the Artemis program. I feel like that is going to be the highest priority right now, is getting that HLS system up and running. Being able to get all of those tankers up into orbit, to do all of the on-orbit refueling tests, to then do the actual refueling, to then get everything ready for HLS, I think is going to take them all the way into what would be that Mars transfer window. Could they work on it simultaneously? Yes, but I think that HLS takes priority. I could see them hitting the 2028 window, but 2026 I think is all about HLS.
I'm with you. Ship 26 to the moon. Good point, Sawyer.
No, Ship 26 should never fly. It should not see the light of day.
I'm with you guys. I would love to see them try, but we got to go to the moon first. That's the plan. Artemis, and then we make the steps.
That's also what they're getting paid
Ship
for.
26 should 100% fly.
Get this guy off.
Get
this guy off.
I don't have this control.
Kevin with
we're off the rails.
Kevin with this ridiculous Ship 26 fan club. Get that thing off screen.
I'm just saying, you guys mentioned it. I didn't even bring it up.
Sawyer did. I didn't say anything. It was totally Sawyer.
I'm now calling you the voice of dog instead of the voice of God. Because your priorities are backwards.
Because, yeah, Kevin, he's talking to you. Ship 26. Will it fly? Who knows? We'll see. When it's scrapped, we'll all know.
Never.
Let's see. Martin, thank you so much for that. Looking forward to your... Oh, still looking for a Flight 3 patch. Ooh. He's asking the community now. Now we're shucking and jiving to find a Flight 3 patch.
But before Kevin interrupted, Ryan, you were about to make what I think is a very important point about HLS too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, very rude of you. I don't know. He interrupts and asks about Ship 26. Pfft, ridiculous. Anyways, they're getting paid for the Artemis program, right? Yeah. They're not getting... SpaceX is currently privately funding the development of Starship, and then they've been given this huge contract by NASA. In my opinion, unless they think that they can make like a ludicrous amount of money with Starlink, you want to focus on the Artemis program because you're getting a lot of money for the Artemis program for the human landing system. So that, again, Gene saying business-wise, that's going to give you a lot of money. So theoretically, you should focus on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Because without the money, you can't keep the program going. We've seen the setbacks from, I'm not going to mention any previous things that were supposed to happen that didn't. But you've got to have paying customers, and Artemis is a giant paying customer. First step, go to the moon. Mm-hmm. Let's see, more questions. Thank you guys so much for your support. Again, we say it a lot, but we mean it. Let's see. Oh, we were talking Mars. Let's get the crystal balls. Let's keep the crystal balls going, okay? This is going to be a tough one, though. This is going to be a tough question. If Mars transfers don't happen every day, right? We can't just up and shoot around. I mean, they have to plan these things perfectly. Hitting a planet, we're pretty good at it, but we're talking about an untested ship on another planetary body coming in, trying to scrub off speed, then doing this fancy belly flop maneuver. The question is, when will the first Starship return from Mars? Personally, I think we're decades away from that. I think we're a long way off. SpaceX can do it. I firmly believe that they can, but I think it's going to be 10 or 15 years before we have something come back, maybe even 20. Sawyer, what do you think?
Ooh. I mean, if we're talking already about potentially the first landing even being 26, or if we're going with my guess, 28, that would just be the landing test. I don't think there would be any plans to then return said Starship, and if so, it wouldn't be anytime soon. I think we're talking in the mid-2030s probably of a potential landing with a return attempt. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Starship come back closer to 2040.
Ryan, what do you think?
I have to agree with Sawyer there, because in order to bring I think, in my opinion, unless they crash, they would have the 100% of the hardware they need to bring back a Starship. They'd have all the hardware. They'd have a Starship on Mars pretty much ready to launch. You know, they'd have to be careful not to, destroy any colonies they've built, but, they'd be ready to launch, essentially. The big thing is the propellant. There are no tank farms on Mars right now. There's no GSC on Mars right now. There's no ground support equipment. So they need to develop that ground support equipment in order to refine methane and refine oxygen in order to fill up the tanks and refuel a Starship and build all of that. They'd need to build a launch pad on Mars. They'd have to do all this infrastructure, which they can't do overnight. Look at Starbase. And I think this is probably the fastest GSC that's ever been built. Look at the Mobile Launcher Platform 2 that Bechtel is currently building on behalf of NASA. The Inspector General thinks it's going to be billions over budget and years behind schedule. GSC is not easy. This isn't like Kerbal Space Program, where you can just land a drill thing on Mars and then suddenly start mining ore, convert it and turn it into fuel and launch 5 minutes later, This is really difficult to do in real life. So my personal opinion is with Sawyer there, 2040 plus or minus a few years is really where I'm kind of sitting with that, because they need to be able to refine that fuel to actually launch. But like I said at the start, they'll have the hardware straight away in terms of the ship. They'll just need the time in order to build the ground support infrastructure to be able to actually launch a Starship and fuel it up.
That's an excellent point. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to get to this one question, but I want to thank Philip Darby. Thank you so much. He says, is it Mars in 2026? Is that ship 2026? Is that a coincidence? Elon. Guys, thank you so much. We are going to go to our special guest in the field right now, who has been doing a whole lot of fun with acoustics. Doss, are you there, Doss?
I think I should be there. I think the question is going to be how many times do you hear me? But I am live out here with the little camera and the BYU team at our North Beach site.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. What's going on out there with the BYU Acoustics team?
Okay. So if y'all were around for the Flame Trench yesterday, we talked with Kent Gee from the BYU Acoustics team, and we looked at some of the data they gathered, I guess, from Flight 5. Well, we talked about some of the limitations in that single point of data, I guess. So they are back out here with us again for Flight 6, and they are setting up one of their scientific acoustic measurement devices here at one of our Starbase properties out at our North Beach site right now. So at some point, I think I may just have to start talking here. I see my camera on right now. Am I good to just do a little walk around and explain what's going on? Okay, and everybody give me thumbs up to make sure this is working, but welcome to our North Beach site. We've got solar at our North Beach site, we've got our comms tower, and there's cameras and stuff up there, the comms box, and a little bit of ground cover, but what we don't normally have out here are these microphones, or I guess microphone array that they're deploying right now. So we braved the sand on the beach, it's a rough beach right now and the tide's coming in, to drive the trucks over here so they could put out one of their measuring systems here at this site. And I'm watching, by the way, on here with a little bit of a delay, so if I don't point the camera exactly right, hey, this is how we roll. We're like doing it live. But let's hop over and see how this system works. I don't want to bother them too much because they're focusing on setup, but luckily, with the flight delay, we got a little bit of extra time here. So let's see who I can bother real quick. Who can I bother? Michaela?
Yes, Hi.
Hey, how's it? Introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, my name is McKaylee. I'm a senior undergraduate, and I've been working with Dr. Gee's research group for 2.5 years.
Like acoustics? Are you like focused on acoustics? That's your bag?
I'm a physics major, but I definitely do, acoustics research.
Is that like distancing yourself from the acoustics nerds or what?
No, I definitely get my fair share here, I would say. Yeah, I go to, I don't actually go to BYU. I just work with their research group. I go to a really small school in Florida. It's called Rollins College, and so all we have is physics. And
Gotcha.
So I have just, it's a great program, great degree.
Excellent. So there's all sorts of wires I'm trying not to trip on here. Talk us through the setup. There's like multiple plates with multiple microphones. There's a brain over there. Like, tell us how all this works.
So over here is our data acquisition system.
Can we see it?
Yes,
All
absolutely.
right. Cable.
Cable.
Okay, Pelicanized data acquisition system.
Yes, so we completely designed these kind of pieced together different pieces of equipment. So this right here is our main data acquisition system, and that is talking to our computer right here.
Okay, that's like a little micro PC sort of thing or something?
Yes, it's tiny, which is tiny and light, which is perfect when you're trying to trek equipment out to far places.
Excellent.
That was the goal.
We had to carry this stuff here. So.
Yes. To balance that out, we've got a giant heavy battery, of course, right? And then right here is our GPS time clock, and that allows us to get exact time synchronization between all of our different measurement stations.
So this Pelican case talks to GPS satellites to figure out the exact time down to the less than a millisecond. Yes, I don't know how accurate.
Less than a millisecond.
Really cool, really good timing.
Yes.
And it provides timing to the other devices that are recording the audio and sending it to the computer.
Exactly.
I translated well.
Yes, that was perfect. Yes, and so then you can see we've got 4 different microphones actually at this station. This is a little bit different than some of the stations we normally set up, which are just a single microphone.
Yeah.
And so you can see we're sort of in process still, just calibrating all of our equipment, but we have 4 different microphones here, and they will all feed into this system.
Okay, so let's go look at the microphones. Yep. And I noticed there's multiple microphones, and they're sort of spread out on specific axes or something like that.
So
let's go look.
Great, let's take a look.
This is how I do things, by the way. I just run around like, let's go here.
It's fine. Okay, so this is what we call a vector intensity probe, and this is actually specifically pointed at the rocket. And so we're trying to do a little bit of vehicle tracking here to understand a little bit more about the directionality of the sound. You can't really get that with one microphone.
Yep.
You need multiple microphones in this particular setup in order to get that information.
So you have like multiple microphones that are very specific distances apart from each other.
Yes.
And the timing is so detailed, the timing is so fine that you can say the sound arrived here at this exact millisecond. I made that up. I'm not a physics major.
That's fine.
And it arrived at this microphone at this exact time, and that gives you like the speed and like distance. You can differentiate how the rocket's moving or how the sound source is moving.
Yes, and there's a lot more you can do with that. But
sure.
Before we kind of logged on here, we were setting these up in specific distances. So these are all 3 meters apart.
Okay.
And so knowing that exact distance is actually going to be very important, knowing the exact location of these microphones for the analysis.
Okay.
Yes.
So why are there 4?
That's an excellent question. So we have different
X and Y axes.
Yes, X and Y axes, but we have different probes with 7 microphones. These are a little bit less complex because they have 4, but since we're so far away from the vehicle, we're 2 kilometers away now. It's actually sufficient for what we need to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is that a bird spike on top?
Yes. Go take a look.
Let's go look. Let's not trip on any cables here.
Yes.
Bird spikes. I feel like we have something in common having to deal with birds.
Absolutely.
So in there, like, what sort of microphone is in there? Is it like you buy one from the audio place? Oh, you don't have to open it up.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's pretty easy to get at. So you can actually see it's really small right down here.
That's the microphone?
That is the microphone.
Pointing at the plate?
Pointing at the plate, and that is intentional.
Why does it point at the plate?
Because when you're doing these ground-based microphones and you want to keep it above any water or anything like that, we don't want it on the plate because any water gets there would get into the mic.
Mess up the mic.
So you want it up a little bit above. There were several studies related to aircraft noise and helicopter noise about how to do these kinds of measurements in the 1970s with NASA.
Okay.
And NASA said, above the plate, and if you look at the diameter of the microphone, you want it half of a 1 diameter above it. So we have this little, very carefully 3D printed that works for our 1/4-inch microphones and our 1/2-inch microphones.
It's a little calibrator.
And you just slide it under, and it tells you how how high to set it.
It's like gapping your spark plugs or whatever.
It's exactly like gapping a spark plug.
So a tiny microphone there that goes over there, and then we have 4 of those microphones that all feed into the system, recording at this one site.
Right, and these microphones are meant to record rocket-like levels. Right?
So they're tuned for that.
Terrible for conversation, right? You'd pick it up, it'd be very hissy, right, because of just the low sensitivity of the microphone.
Gotcha.
But they also go from infrasound all the way into the ultrasound.
Excellent.
So in terms of a response, they're better than the human ear.
And like if it rains on them, is that okay? Do you have to waterproof them or bag them? Or?
Well, McKaylee,
yes.
Tell them about the design of this and what it's for.
Okay, so these windscreens are made with a very specific type of foam.
Right.
So it's actually waterproof.
So is it closed cell foam? That water can't go through?
Yes.
No, it's open. It's open cell.
It's open cell. Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're good. It's an important question. But yeah, so because of the shape of this, the water won't actually hit the microphone. So that was very specific.
It just like channels it away from the microphone.
It away from the microphone. As long as nothing's touching the inside.
Yep.
It's great. And we've had torrential downpours in Florida. Right, where you're just going, there's no way.
Is it domed on the inside? Are we giving away any secrets here?
No.
Okay. It's domed on the inside, and there's not really a place for the water to collect and drip down or anything.
It tends to shield it on the to wick away on the inside. And
okay,
I will give a shout out here. This design we're using is actually being adopted by NASA for the X-59 program.
For the mini boom, the quiet boom program.
They're doing a whole bunch of community measurements,
yeah.
And we provided an updated design to them so they could improve upon it, so they would have weather-resistant, microphone systems that can be deployed in communities.
Excellent.
So what's going on there is also being applied here.
Excellent. It's not just about the data for here. It helps us get data from other places, too, and not even just your group.
Exactly.
And the bird spikes so the birds don't try to land on it or build a nest or anything like that. Bird microphone noises aren't great. Like you hear the birds scratching on the microphones.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else haven't we talked about while we're here? Did I miss anything?
Noah. You know, actually, I think you should talk about the low frequency stuff.
Let's go to the low frequency stuff. Noah.
So tell them about the work that we had to do.
And introduce yourself real quick.
Okay. My name is Noah. I'm an undergrad at BYU, finishing up my senior year. Plan to do a master's at BYU as well with Dr. Gee, doing the same kind of research.
Okay.
So we care a lot about the frequencies of the rocket as well as how loud it is.
Right.
And for these really big rockets, you get down to like really low frequencies, under 10 hertz or so. And so we care about how much energy is behind the different frequencies.
Right.
And so that's important for these specific microphones. And so what we had to do is know really precisely how they behave at those low frequencies, how they respond.
How the microphones respond?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And so to test that, to generate some really low frequencies, we put these all in the car, had them recording, and then just drove our car on the freeway for 30 minutes.
Really?
And that helps you get to like really low frequencies, the ones even below what we'll expect with the rocket.
More something you'd feel than hear, I guess?
Exactly. And so that helps us know how these microphones behave at those really low frequencies. And then that will help us in our analysis as we, calculate these metrics and stuff and find the energy behind the different frequencies. We'll know how these microphones were behaving and use that in our data analysis.
In your data. Good deal. I mean, it's not just about bringing it out here and recording the rocket. You got to know how your equipment's going to work in the first place.
And we also found that it could perform differently at a high altitude in Utah compared to here at the coast.
It's like an air density thing? Or?
Yeah, and the atmospheric pressure and everything. And so we drove them in Utah. They drove them around California. We got different answers. So then we knew we had to do it here so that we knew this environment with these microphones.
Gotcha. Good deal. I want to talk about, are we looking at one more thing?
Go place that.
Yeah.
Watch him with the highly technical process of enclosing the microphone.
Step 1, put the foam around it. Step 2, put the custom bird spikinator around it.
That's right.
So I noticed that the microphone is not in the center of that plate. Is that an intentional thing that it's not in the center? Is everybody shaking their heads?
Yeah, so we try and aim. It's kind of off center, so we try and aim this like flatter side towards the rocket where we expect the noise to be coming from, and that just helps us know like what kind of sounds are bouncing off these ground plates and how it will affect our microphones.
Are the ground plates just to protect the microphones, or do they also sort of smooth out the sound going into the microphone? Like, oh, here we had sand, and here we had grass, and here, like, is that just
having a uniform plate below all the microphones will help us kind of control some of our variables.
Control some of the variables.
If we can in the field. So that
science.
Yes.
And I think one other thing to talk about here, and whoever's supposed to talk about this, raise your hand. Because we're here at one of our sites that we use for our 24/7 cameras, we've got some stuff that you don't normally have. We've got power and internet. So you were working, I'm pointing here, you were working back here on the laptop, and you've got the ability to talk to your computer remotely when the road's closed, when the area's clear, right?
Yeah, which is a huge deal for us. So oftentimes, I mean, we do a lot of these rocket launches, and usually our systems have to operate fully autonomously.
Standalone, off-grid.
Yeah, exactly. So fully on battery power. A lot of times you set the system up, you have to leave it. That's how it was. We did a measurement the last Delta IV Heavy launch earlier in this, I think it was spring this year, March or April, I forget when it was. But we had to put a station like really close to the rocket on the pad. We had one access window like 48 hours before the launch.
Oh, jeez.
We had to set it up, crossed our fingers, had to hope that everything went well, and it did, which was super awesome. But this is a game changer. We can set it up a couple days in advance. Obviously, launch is scheduled for Tuesday.
Yep.
We can have these things powered, remote in, so this is super awesome to be here with NSF.
Introduce yourself real quick too. I didn't actually introduce you. I just walked up and I'm like, you.
Yeah, so I'm Logan Matthews. I'm a PhD candidate here at BYU. So I spend most of my time in one of two areas. So I spend half of my time studying rocket noise and the other half doing military jet noise. So very different techniques, very different analyses, but we're hoping to get some really good understanding of, you know, everything from a military jet all the way up through to the largest rocket ever launched.
Gotcha.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Well, of course you can.
Live, right?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, I just want to point that out, is that it's kind of unique that we study both military aircraft jets, which are at kind of one temperature and one velocity, like the plumes, right?
Yep.
And then you have rockets, which are a lot hotter and a lot faster.
Yep.
And Logan probably is the only student in the entire world who's simultaneously studying both.
Does both.
Yeah, and we've learned some really important physics as a result of looking at both regimes.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so it's been fun.
It's really interesting because the understanding from jet noise and rocket noise, there's actually a lot of discrepancies.
Gotcha.
They go back decades. And so the work that we're doing here is trying to kind of reconcile the physics between the two and help us model both aircraft noise and rocket noise better.
Gotcha. By the way, cool shirt.
Thank you.
Like the IFT5 custom shirt
yes,
there.
I guess a flight late, but we're here a second time, so.
But for flight, I think you're going to be with me over on the roof of the Margaritaville.
Absolutely.
Sort of plugged into the network command center so that you can monitor some of your online stations. And y'all are going to have both offline stations that are standalone, not connected to the internet, and the online stations at some of our sites, so you can sit there and monitor them and program them. And I think we're going to try to do a shakedown. If that testing is still on for tomorrow, we may try to record some tests tomorrow.
Absolutely. If we can get some really interesting stuff from the wet dress rehearsal, that would be amazing.
Yep.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, folks, that is the plan here. I don't know if I'm going to assume my feed is still working. Maybe it's not. I'll just look at the camera up on the tower, which has also been used. But out here with the BYU Acoustics team, microphones are set. We're going to get out of here and hopefully get off the beach before the tide. Questions?
We do.
Live questions?
We do. We have one.
Ask me a question in my ear.
First of all, Doss, let McKaylee's know that her mom is in chat. She's watching right now. She wants to say, great job. Keep up the great work.
Hey, what's the question?
McKaylee, your mom is in chat watching. Great job. Keep up the good work and turn red.
Hi, Mom. I love you. Wow.
There you go. All right.
Also, Alex had a really, really good question about the standardization of the locations of the monitors that they're putting out. And his question is, how do they make sure that the measurements are standardized across all the locations where they're putting the microphones?
Okay, let me repeat the question. The microphones are in a lot of different places, a lot of different terrain, at a lot of different distances. How do you standardize or account for that when you report on the data?
Go, Mark.
You're going to have to introduce yourself first.
All right, I'm Mark Anderson. I'm also a PhD candidate over at BYU. And, we brought out, well over a dozen different measurement systems for this particular launch. And it is a challenge to try and get good quality data at all these different distances. We have to use different microphones up close to the vehicle, like at this location, and then we use different microphones farther away that are, a different sensitivity, work in a different frequency range. And at each site we have a similar designed windscreen setup, kind of like you saw earlier on the plates. But other than that, it is mostly the same hardware that's being used, but we're swapping out, what exact, specific electronics we're using.
Gotcha.
But other than that, it's largely the same at every location.
And for Starship specifically, we're sort of at the beginning of gathering this data. So right now we're about getting the initial data. You got some for Flight 5, hopefully get some more for Flight 6, and you sort of record information about the environment. But right now we're just getting the initial data because this is the second time the world's most powerful rocket.
And we have no idea if our first data set was representative of every Starship launch or if it was an outlier. We have no idea.
Excellent.
And so hoping to solve some of those mysteries for, the whole community.
Excellent. Gene, do we have any more questions?
I don't think so, but they need a cool team name like Team Big Boom or something like that.
Do you have a cool team name? Team Big Boom or Team Snap Crackle Pop or something?
This is the Physics and Aerospace Student-Centered Acoustics Laboratory. And
I can't
spell
do that
out.
in my head.
Pascal.
Which
is the unit of pressure that we use to measure.
Is it on the back of the shirt?
It's not, actually.
It's not. Oh, wait, is it?
It is.
It is. It's Pascal. It says right there.
And I think it's
BYU
got a
Pascal.
wave, right?
It has a
The L
wave.
makes a little shock wave. So, anyway, yeah.
Excellent. All right, Gene and the rest of the crew, I think we are going to pass it back to y'all. Thank you so much for being flexible with the schedule here. We were fighting the beach, fighting the sand. We were basically on a slip and slide trying to get out here in the trucks, but we made it. Y'all are all set, right? Thumbs up?
Yeah.
All right. And we will toss it back to y'all to finish off the Countdown to Launch show. Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Thank you guys from BYU Acoustics. Leave it to a bunch of physics guys to come up with a cool name like Pascal. I'm impressed. That's awesome. And thank you to Sawyer and Ryan for joining us today on Countdown to Launch. We have a lot of other people to thank. Jake265, thank you for that super chat. Daniel, yes, you need some patches. You know where to go. Shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Alex, you're right. Go Starship. We are all with you. We are all with you. Go Starship. Devin, thank you so much for gifting 5 red team memberships. And again, if you are a recipient of those memberships, be sure to thank everybody and thank you for continuing to support NSF. I want to thank Ryan. Thank you so much, Ryan, for taking the time to join us today on Countdown to Launch. I know we're all excited about Tuesday. Any thoughts as we go?
The extra time is nice.
It is. It is. And Sawyer's given us a big thumbs up. Sawyer, thank you for taking the time today as well. Guys, coming up, we've got some really good streams coming your way. Tomorrow, we're looking at a Falcon 9 launch from Slick 39A. The Optus X, that's going to be tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern, followed by some possible testing. So be sure you're on Starbase Live. Just keep that up. You'll see the testing if it happens tomorrow. Monday, of course, IFT6 has slipped to Tuesday. We're looking for some amazing weather. Thank you, Adam Suka, for joining us today to talk about that. So Monday, you can join the NSF coverage of the GSAT 20 mission from Slick 40. That's going to be at 1:30 p.m. And then on Monday, be sure right here, a gigantic, a XXL, a 2X version of Countdown to Launch with your friends here at NSF. Thank you, everybody, for your support. And I know we went a little long today. Thank you, Dawson, everybody in the field. Thank you guys from behind the counter, Kevin and Jay and everyone else for putting this on today. We'll see you on tomorrow's Countdown to Launch, and keep Starbase Live up. I'm your host, Gene Rowley, for today's show. We'll catch you next time.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up.
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange! 125! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Nothing to do with flare, correct?